ब्रजदेविके च हे नन्दसूना कुतः हे राधे ब्रजदेविके च ललिते हे नन्दसूना कुतः श्रीगोवर्धन पादपतले कालिन्दी वने कुतः राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यमुना तीर बनचारी राधा कृष्ण को गोपनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवदीप धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, द्वारका धाम की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। All glory to the all glory to the Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. You're welcome.
Haribol.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. We are here. Yes,
Welcome. Thanks for inviting me. I feel like a mosquito in the midst of all the other speakers I've been seeing there. No, really. So wonderful.
Thank
It's a
you very
great
much.
thing. We know that for all these years, how many people actually visited your countries. So it made me look good, kind of, but now you can see, now you have something to compare to. So. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 7, text number 40. Sutu Vacha. Is anybody going to repeat or anything? Or?
I can repeat. If everybody have to repeat, then there will be echo.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Sutu Vacha. They should repeat that without their mic. Sutu Vacha.
Sutta Vacha.
Evam.
Evam.
Chata.
Parikshata.
Dharmam.
Dharmam.
Artha.
Partha.
Krishnena.
Krishnena.
Odita.
Rodita.
Naichat.
Naichat.
Dantum.
Dantum.
Gurusutam.
Gurusutam.
Yadyapyatma Anam
Yadyapi Atma Anam.
Mahan
Mahan.
Sutuvacha
Tuvacha.
Evam Parikshita Dharmam
Evam Parishata Dhamam.
Artha Krishnena Chodita
Varta Krishnena Chodita.
Naichad Dantum Guru Shas Sutam
Naicha Datum Guru Sutam.
Yadyapyatma Anam Mahan
Yadyapyatma Anam Mahan.
Sutuvacha
Utovacha.
Evam Parikshita Dharmam
Evam Parishata Dharmam.
Artha Krishnena Chodita
Artha Krishnena Chodita.
Naichad Dantam Guru Sutam
Naicha Datum Guru Sutam.
Yadyap Yatma Anam Mahan
Yadyapyatma Anam Mahan.
Sutuvacha
Sutovacha.
Evam Parikshita Dharmam
Evam Parichata Dharmam.
Artha Krishnena Chodita
Partha Krishnena Chodita.
Naichad Dantam Guru Sutam
Naicha Datum Guru Sutam.
Yadyapyatma Mahan.
Yadyapyatmanam Mahan.
Go ahead.
Suta Uvacha.
Suvacha
Eva Parichata Dharmam.
Evam Parikshita Dharmam
Partha Krishnena Chodita.
Artha Krishnena Chodita
Naicha Datum Guru Sutam.
Naicha Dantum Guru Sutam
Yadyapyatmanam Mahan.
Yadyapyatma Anam Mahan.
Sorry, anybody wants to chant, can please unmute himself. One person at a time.
Calling Guru Giridhari Puja Devi. Sahadev. One more chance.
Sutta Uvacha.
Vacha.
Whoever that was, go ahead.
Bishop Abu, continue.
Sutta Uvacha.
Vacha
Evam Parik Satadamam.
evam parichata dharmam
Pataha Krishnena Chartita.
Bhakta Krishnena chodita
Aicha Datun Guru Sutam.
Naicha datum guru sutam
Yariyapiyat Ahanamaham.
Yadyapi atmanam maham
Sutta Uvacha.
Sutta vacha
Evam pariksata dhamam.
evam parichata dharmam
Ata Krishnena chotida.
Partha Krishnena chodita
Tatantum guru sutam.
Naicha datum guru sutam
Yadyapi atmaha mantaham.
Yadyapi atmanam maham. Anyone else want to try?
Okay. Sutta.
Sutta. Sutta Goswami.
Uvacha.
Uvacha said,
Evam.
Evam,
This.
this,
Parikshita.
Parichata,
Being examined.
being examined,
Dharmam.
Dharmam,
Matter of duty.
in the matter of duty,
Partha.
Partha,
Arjuna.
Sri Arjuna,
Krishnena.
Krishnena,
Lord Krishna.
by Lord Krishna,
Chodita.
Chodita,
Being encouraged.
being encouraged,
Aich na aichat.
Nayachat,
Did not like.
did not like,
Hantum.
Antum,
Kill.
to kill,
Guru Sutam.
Guru Sutam,
Son of his teacher.
the son of his teacher,
Yadyapi.
Yadyapi,
Although.
although,
Atmahanam.
Atma Anam,
Mother of sons.
mother of sons,
Mahan.
Mahan,
Very great.
very great.
Sutta Goswami said, although Krishna, who was examining Arjunan religion, encouraged Arjuna to kill the son of Dronacharya, Arjuna, the great soul, did not like the idea of killing him, although Ashwatthama was a heinous murderer of Arjuna's family members. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Arjuna was a great soul, undoubtedly, which is proved here also. He is encouraged herein personally by the Lord to kill the son of Dronacharya, but Arjuna considers that the son of his great teacher should be spared, for he happens to be the son of Dronacharya, even though he is an unworthy son, having done all sorts of heinous acts whimsically for no one's benefit. Lord Shri Krishna encouraged Arjuna outwardly just to test Arjuna's sense of duty. It is not that Arjuna was incomplete in the sense of duty, nor was Lord Krishna unaware of Arjuna's sense of duty. But Lord Shri Krishna puts to the test many of his pure devotees just to magnify the sense of duty. The gopis were put to such test as well. Prahlad Maharaj also was put to such a test. All pure devotees come out successful in the respective test by the Lord. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sadrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabdutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Cha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namni Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaur Avani Prachadane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarane Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Maha Vadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gora Trishe Namaha Panchatatmakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Surupakam Bhakta Bhataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste. Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Mangayate Garim Tatkripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dina Tarani. Okay, so Srimad Bhagavatam is very amazing book. It has everything we need: how to live, how not to live, who's God, who's not God, on and on. This Leela is one very amazing example. I was thinking about it earlier, and if we, every time we had some trouble with somebody's misbehaving, whether it's a student in our school or another devotee or a wife or children, if we thought about it as carefully as Arjuna has to think about it, in all the different sides, I think it would be a much better society that we live in, because we have a tendency to, they say in America, shoot from the hip, quick draw. If you ever saw those cowboy movies, just pull out your gun and shoot them. You don't like their face or something, So Arjuna, obviously, one of the children killed was his son, and they're all his nephews, and they're all very close, because as much as the Pandavas are so close with each other, then they must have been equally close with all the boys. I don't know the story of those boys, otherwise, like someone would ask, well, why did Krishna let Ashwatthama, only 16 years old, get killed? There's some explanation that he was a demigod that agreed to come, but only for 16 years. He didn't want to stay on earth any longer, so that Leela was arranged. But then also it gave a chance for the Kauravas to implicate themselves in much more offensive, sinful activities, and to show off, Ashwatthama's abilities. Draupadi, here's an example of such an amazing woman. I don't know how in your country, I hear in America all the time, there's somebody murdered somebody's child. And of course, in America, the trial takes forever. And when the person is finally convicted to be executed or life in jail, the family is cheering and cheering and cheering as if it really helps, bring back the child or something. But they want to see another person suffer without thinking that that person also has a family that's innocent, has a mother, has brothers and sisters, has, many different people that will be very distressed. So Draupadi is thinking about the mother of Ashwatthama, who's, a wonderful Brahmini woman. And she's thinking how much she's suffering. We can't imagine, how much she's suffering. 5 sons all killed at once in a totally hellish way, not in a glorious way, like when Ashwatthama was, when Abhimanyu was killed. Of course, Subhadra was distressed. But then Krishna went to her and he said, oh, it was a wonderful death. He was the greatest hero. And I hope I could die. And it was such a glorious death. And, he just glorified Abhimanyu so much. And that way pacified Draupadi, Subhadra. Of course, nothing can ever, the mother that loses her son, it's a very serious, trauma. You can't imagine 5 sons all at once in such a hellish way, such a demoniac way. Like it was kind of like the first terrorist, but he got empowered by Lord Shiva. He got the special sword, so a Leela, but he has to suffer a lot. So Draupadi, Arjuna brought him back. He's scared to death. And Krishna is saying you have to kill him, and Draupadi is saying no. And Bhima wanted to kill him. I don't know about the others, and Krishna is leaving it up to Arjuna. So it's a very inconceivable, what to do. To find a way to satisfy everybody. This is, real Vaishnava. And it's a dilemma we have a lot. How can we satisfy everybody? People need to be punished sometimes for their misdeeds, but we can't just cut off heads or something. And we have to consider many, many factors. As our society grows, especially, we have to be very thoughtful because we have in our society an unpleasant history of mistreating children. Well, he did this, he did that. There was a bad boy anyway. I've heard all the horrible, those kids were really bad, anybody, what could I do, No, that's not proper. One has to know how to take care, how to handle this. Or my wife insulted me. I had to beat her up, I had to kick her when she's down. She wasn't humble and thinking it's okay. So this is Kali Yuga, and all over the world, we've had these incidences. People have been thrown out of the temples for minor infractions, sometimes serious. But Prabhupada, he wasn't like that. He was very kind, although, he also was very strict about regulated principles and things like that. But otherwise, he was very liberal. Even there's history of devotees who stole so much money, came back without it. And Prabhupada welcomed them, begged them to please come back and give their life again. Usually they didn't. There was one boy in Hawaii. He was a very, important devotee in the beginning. He was Govinda Devi's husband, Govinda Dasi. And they were working together. He was learning Bengali. They were helping Prabhupada in many, many ways. Very intelligent. And then they started the temple in Hawaii. They were doing really good. But something happened to him. He got the Hawaii tropical fever or whatever happens there. And he tried to, sell everything and take all the money and run away. And Govinda Dasi somehow stopped him from getting all the money. But he left. And he was gone for a long time. He just became a hippie, kind of a hippie guru with many girlfriends and, playing his guitar and long hair and beard and everything. And when Prabhupada came to Hawaii, he wanted to see him. And he didn't want to come at first. Devotees found him. Finally, he came to see Prabhupada. And Prabhupada asked him, "What did I do wrong? Please tell me what mistakes I made that you didn't want to stay. You left us." And the guy was just, Prabhupada was inviting him to come back. But talking like that, he never chastised him. He was apologizing and wanting to know, what did I do wrong? And Prabhupada genuine. He wanted to know. He really, not just making a show, like I would. But he was serious. This is the true humility, like we read in Narottam Das Thakur. Hopefully, we were reading a lot of songs of Narottam Das Thakur the other day and yesterday on his disappearance day. So much songs of lamentation. I'm no good. I didn't serve Krishna. I've wasted my life. Please, Krishna, help me. And I need the shed. Bhakti Vinod, same thing. I need the mercy of devotees. Only devotees can help me because they can tell Krishna to please help me. This genuine humility. So Prabhupada was like that. The guy was just, then he left and Prabhupada said, he's a rascal. And that was it. He forgot about it after that. Another one was once Prabhupada's cook or something. He was a very good cook. And he left. He was eating meat, doing everything nonsense. And Prabhupada came to New York. There were so many devotees there. They'd come, in those days. And wherever Prabhupada went, he didn't go to every temple. So devotees would come from all around, even sometimes California to New York, but at least the East Coast, where they could drive in a few hours. And this devotee was there. Prabhupada saw him and he called him over. And he said, "Oh, I can't remember what his name is. You can cook for me while I'm here." And the devotee said, "Prabhupada, he's eating meat, he's drinking, he's doing everything." Prabhupada said, "No, you can please come and cook for me while I'm here." And he did. So this is a phenomenal. I don't know if we can imitate, but that's Prabhupada's love for his children and his he felt obligated for the service they did previously to getting, wounded, pulled away, killed by Maya. So Arjuna is going through a really serious dilemma because he wants to please Draupadi. Now Draupadi is as far from an ordinary woman as you can get. I don't know how much everybody knows. She's not born of a mother. She was born, because of King Draupadi, who hated Dronacharya, which is a whole other story, another mystical story of these people, these bad relationships. But so he had a fire yagya. He got the first class Brahmins. And what he wanted was a son who could, a daughter who could marry Arjuna. because Arjuna was, the greatest fighter, and he wanted to be connected, and because he wanted to fight against Dronacharya, and and a, and a son who could kill Dronacharya. So out from the fire, not by mother, not a baby, came Draupadi, just like unlimitedly beautiful and effulgent, and just walked right out of the sacrificial fire. Now, I don't think any of us can do like that, or anybody could do it again, ever. But and also came Dristadumna, a great warrior, who was, born for that purpose, to kill Dronacharya, which he did, and with a lot of help from Krishna. And Draupadi was able to marry Arjuna. And not only that, but she married all the 5 brothers, which is another story, which is quite interesting. But they were hiding in the forest after that house burned, Duryodhana's plot to kill them. But Vidura, made arrangements for them to escape. So they, after traveling a long way through the forest and fighting with the Indian demon, and they finally got to Ekachakra, which you probably heard of a couple of days ago, Nityananda's birthplace. And they were staying in the house of one Brahmana who was very poor, and he was begging every day, and they were begging every day. For 1 year, disguised as Brahmanas, and somehow nobody caught on. And Bhima had a really big begging bowl. Everybody loved him. Bhima was a very jolly, happy-go-lucky person. And then they would divide everything, not equally. Whatever they all collected, Bhima would get half, and they divide the rest between the rest of them for for eating. Because Bhima, the whole time, he was always hungry. And then Vyasadeva came and told him, there's a Swayamvara of Draupadi, and they should go and compete. So they did, and it was a very difficult contest to shoot this target that was rotating, and they could only look at the reflection. They had to hit it in the eye of this fish going around. Karna was there, Duryodhana, many great princes, because Draupadi was so beautiful that she was dangerous to have around, because any man that saw her would just go berserk. She was just so beautiful. And she's, like an expansion of the goddess of fortune. And any man that saw her, it happened when they were later on in exile. Brother of the queen, tried to rape her. Because men couldn't control themselves. And Duryodhana was mad after Draupadi. Karna was mad after her. And they all tried. They were able to string the bow, but they couldn't get the target. So finally, they asked, can a Brahmana compete? So they said, yes. A Brahmana can act like a Kshatriya, that's bona fide Varnashram. So Arjuna did it, and everybody was shocked, but they didn't recognize him. Everybody thought they were dead. Except Vidura, who knew. The rest of it, everybody thought the Pandavas were dead, and they had the funerals and everything. And so they didn't, and then, Krishna is protecting them. So nobody noticed, nobody recognized them. They're all dressed in white, Brahmin clothes, poor. So Draupadi was really happy, and she went with Arjuna. And they went back to where they were staying. And Draupadi, or Kunti, was in the other room. Kunti was one of these people that never told a lie. So whatever she said would be true. It had to come true. I don't know if we have anybody like that on Earth anymore. It's Kali Yuga. lying is just ordinary. Like that one president of the United States, Lyndon Johnson, he was when Prabhupada was president. Other politicians said he lies even when he doesn't have to. You know, like politicians lie a lot. Sometimes it's necessary, but he lied no matter what. You know, nobody knew true or not. So they said, "Mother, wait till you see what we collected today." And she said, "Whatever it is, you have to share equally amongst yourselves." Then she came out and saw that it was Draupadi, and then she was shocked. You know, that she'd have to marry all 5 of them. But it had to happen. So Yudhisthira, he was, you know, trying to examine Dharma, and they called Vyastev. Vyastev said he gave some example of a previous case, and then he told of Draupadi's previous life. She was some sort of princess, and she wanted a husband, and she was doing tapasya for Lord Shiva so she could get a good husband. And finally Lord Shiva came and he said, you know, "What do you want?" And she was so excited to see Lord Shiva. She said, "I want a husband, I want a husband, I want a husband, I want a husband, I want a husband." So Shiva said, "Okay, you can have 5 husbands." She said, "No, no, no, I only want one." He said, "No, you asked 5 times. I have to give you 5 husbands." And then there's some story that they were all previously Indra and she was married to them at different times. So anyway, she did it. And it was an amazing thing. When she met the wives of Krishna at Kurukshetra, they were all asking her, "How do you keep 5 husbands satisfied? How do you do it? Do you give them drugs or what?" You know, and she explained, you know, how she did it. And of course, the Pandavas were so, you know, loving with each other. They had arrangements, you know, how they would work it out. And so it all worked, you know, and even when the Kauravas were plotting, Karna or somebody said, "Well, maybe we can get, you know, turn them against each other or use Draupadi." And everybody said, "No way, you know, they're fixed. They completely follow Yudhisthira, and Draupadi will never get, you know, angry or, you know, and try to reject one of them or accept another one." Although it said she favored Arjuna to some extent, which is natural, because he was the original one that she garlanded and everything. So we're not dealing with ordinary people, you know, we're dealing with the sons of demigods, and Draupadi is an expansion of the goddess of fortune, you know, just popped out of the sacrificial fire, fully grown. So, but they're showing us that, you know, we have to really be, to be a judge. It's called vichara, vicharo. You know, the judge has to be very wise and very balanced, and, you know, to see all sides of every story before he can make a decision. And it can be very frustrating for the people who want a quick decision. The GBC, we face this a lot with, you know, some disciplinary action, and we have one side saying, "You stupid GBC, you know this guy's nonsense and you should punish him immediately, you should throw him out and, you know, put his name all over the universe and what a bum he is." And then you have another side saying, "You're so cruel, you should realize he's such a great devotee." And you have equal number of very nice devotees on those 2 sides. So it's very hard to do anything. So Arjuna is in a situation like that. Unprecedented, you know. He had told Draupadi earlier, "I will bring him to you and you can take your sacrificial bath standing on his head," you know. In other words, it's up to you to do whatever you want with him. So when she thought about it and said, no, I don't want his mother to have to suffer the way I'm suffering. So she only had one son. Draupadi had 5 sons, but he said that, if she loses her one son, then she's got nothing. She already lost her husband, and I don't want her to suffer. So just imagine what an incredible personality. This is Vaishnava compassion, the real thing that we should be praying and hankering that someday we can have such a consciousness and still take action and still deal with discipline and everything in a way that satisfies everyone. So as this story goes on, and you'll learn how Arjuna did it. He was so intelligent that he found a way to do it and satisfy everybody. I don't think he satisfied Ashwatthama, but he satisfied everybody else. So this is our life. This is what we're trying to learn from the Srimad Bhagavatam. If we want to learn Srimad Bhagavatam, I'll just throw this in because yesterday was Narottam Das, and I was listening to Sitala Devi, and she was saying how, he was sent to, they were the 3 of them, they were sent to Bengal with the books. But it wasn't simply to just, like a courier service to deliver some paper. They were sent there. They were personally requested by Janavi Mata to carry the book so they could teach them. Because she saw in Bengal was so much sahajya and so much misrepresentation of Lord Chaitanya's movement. And she wanted something done. So she told Jiva Goswami, you have to send those books right away. And you send these 3 men. And so they were meant to teach. He was meant to be the teacher of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he taught perfectly by his behavior. All of his poetry is exactly Chaitanya Charitamrita, put in a much more even simple way, much more presentable. He inspired thousands of, we don't know, there's no number given, but all kinds of people, caste Brahmins, the biggest Smarta Brahmins, criminals, thieves, gangs, they all came and surrendered at his feet and became first-class Vaishnavas because he perfectly represented Lord Chaitanya. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhaktisiddhanta said, if you want to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is Krishnadas Kaviraj's genius. And of course, there's a lot of Srimad Bhagavatam in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But there's Lord Chaitanya preaching Srimad Bhagavatam. So we know how the Bhagavatam lessons are applicable in all kinds of circumstances by the, the absolute mercy of Krishnadas Kaviraj. And of course, that all came from Raghunath Das Goswami. But Krishnadas Kaviraj, he heard all the Chaitanya Leela and everything from Raghunath and maybe a few other sources, but he put it together in such a way, and perfect poetry and beautiful, Prabhupada said the Bhagavatam has grammatical errors and poetical errors and stuff like any poetry would have, but the Chaitanya Charitamrita is flawless. Although the Smarta crazies, they won't accept it because it's not written in Sanskrit. And I learned, I didn't know, but the Goswamis, they wrote in Sanskrit, but they were writing Bengali text, like we write in Roman letters, Sanskrit. They were writing in Bengali text because the books were meant for Bengalis who probably didn't read Sanskrit. So, but it's a phenomenal thing, the whole thing. But so we need to read Chaitanya Charitamrita also in order to enter into depth of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is, the word is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita over and over again, unfathomable. Anybody know that word? Sahadev? You know that word, unfathomable? If you read it, would you look it up or just skip over it? Huh?
No,
This is-
Maharaj, I don't know.
This is something we need to learn. I was visiting the Scientology people in Tokyo. The leader there, he was a very good man. He was a brilliant businessman before, a millionaire, and then he's lived a very austere life. So they have a lot of lessons, and one was how to use a dictionary. And I saw these Japanese people, and they were so fascinated. You know, they never looked in a dictionary in their whole life. And they explain that many people, they don't even know what some basic words mean, like and the. So they don't understand what they're reading. And when they come to words they don't know, they just skip over them. So they never understand what they're reading. I used to teach reading, so I know how much comprehension people have, very slight. And we had very simple, multiple choice tests. Most people get about 40% right away. So when we come to a word we don't know, we should look it up. If you ever listen to Vaisheshika Prabhu, he does that often. Look this one up. What's the origin of this word? How to get into the English language? How is it used? And, this way we can understand. So when they measure the depth of water, especially in the ocean, there's a unit, I don't know how big it is, but it's called a fathom. So they lower the rope down, and it's so many fathoms to the bottom. So unfathomable means you can't find the bottom. You can't find out how many fathoms the bottom is down because there's no bottom to it. That's the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's Lord Chaitanya's Leelas. That's the holy name. That's our Sankirtan movement. That's the future. It's unfathomable. We can't measure. We can't know. We can only just keep digging and finding more and more nectar, more and more treasure. The more we dig in, the holy name is like a mine of ecstasy. Like people in Ghana, you have gold mines, and people want to find gold, right? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. There's many stories, I don't know, in Ghana of people that dug for gold for years, gave up, moved away from their little place where they were digging, and the next person came, and in 2 days they hit the gold. The other person gave up when the gold was just like a couple feet away. So never give up your Krishna consciousness, no matter how much you feel like you're not getting anywhere or you're not making any advancement. That might hopefully just be a sign of humility. I just heard a Gaur Govinda Maharaj said, your disqualification is your only qualification. Or your only qualification is your disqualification. You have no qualification to be a devotee, to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. But that's why Lord Nityananda is taking us. No matter where we come from, what our background is, how much sinful activities we've done. As long as we give it up and we pray and try to take shelter and we stick it out, just keep chanting, At least at the time of death, Krishna promises, I just reading chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada promises, Krishna promises, and Prabhupada promises in so many purports. If you're just chanting up until the time of death, I will take you back to Godhead. You're guaranteed. So, we have to have faith, baby. Keep the faith, keep on, and keep preaching, because we will spread this movement. We will, have thousands of devotees, very active in temples all over West Africa and East Africa and the whole universe. Vaisheshika was showing the map of India with all the temples, and you can hardly see a blank spot. There's so many temples, and they're always building new ones, big temples with Radha Krishna. But of course, hundreds of people are joining. And he thinks every country can do that. And it's possible, but it won't happen overnight. But if we keep going, the next generation will follow in suit. They'll be inspired by seeing your example, and on and on and on, like we have already. Some temples where second generation devotees are taking over, and with their youthful energy and intelligence and faith somehow or other has been inspired in them, and things are happening. I'm going to have thousands of devotees. So get ready. All right. So I want to leave time for the questions.
Thank you very much. So if any devotee have a question, please, you can simply raise your hand so that Guru Maharaj can attend to your question. We have
Or commentary. Realizations, reflection, detraction.
Kesade Prabhu, please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the class.
You're home today. Not
Yes,
working.
Maharaj. Thank you.
How's your family? How many grandchildren do you have?
None yet. I don't have grandchildren yet.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. My question has to do with Draupadi, who had initially requested for Ashwatthama's death, and then later on declined and saying she doesn't want Mother Kripi to go through what she's already going through. And you gave example, like here in the States, how people like to see the culprit punished. Sometimes the family members will only say, we just want justice served. And so my question is, where do we draw the line between being compassionate and also serving justice as devotees?
Well, that last part's a good question. I didn't say that Draupadi wanted to. Arjuna told Draupadi, I will bring him back and you can stand on his head. She had not, as far as I know, hadn't requested anything. She was just totally shocked and distressed. So Arjuna was thinking that this is what, normal thing that she would want. So that's what this is about. How did Arjuna do that? So we have to think of the broader picture. There are stories, quite a few, of people who, like the country of, what's that country in East Africa that had such terrible war and everything, civil war, and really horrible. Small country. Rwanda. And the president, the new president said, we have to forgive, everybody has to forgive that, all these people that were soldiers and they killed your brothers and family and all these things. Everybody has to forgive, and, it was very hard, but they did that, and now that country is flourishing. So that's real justice, but in the mature world, there's no real justice. If someone is still a dangerous criminal, they have to be somehow dealt with, locked up or executed, depending. if they're dangerous for society. So that's, you know, they try to decide that in the courts, at least in America. You know, they give people a punishment according to what they, you know, their previous record and their character and whether they're really repentant and things like that. So we can't just be like really liberal, oh, he's a nice devotee and, you know, but at the same time, we don't want to be just blasphemous and demoniac and make the whole movement look bad because we're throwing people out, you know. Prabhupada would always say you have to educate and have to, but we have to make adjustments, you know, sometimes. So it's not, there's no hard and fast rule. We have to protect, you know, women and children. If there's an abusive person that's abusing the children, or whether he's a father or a stepfather or a school teacher or whatever it is, we have to at least separate them from children, you know, to protect the children and protect them from further, you know, sinful activities. If someone's a thief, we can't have them, like, you know, have access to the treasury. And some people, we just, you know, when we're just talking about devotees, sometimes they're just incorrigible, so we have to deal with it. And we try to be merciful and try to do something to help them be in a situation where they can do some service without making trouble for anybody. And that's where the really difficult, you know, balancing act comes in. So that we can try to learn from this pastime of, you know, how much back and forth, how much different thought went into it, how Arjuna was torn, you know. Because he didn't just kill Ashwatthama, he captured him, tied him up, and brought him back to Draupadi for her to decide what to do. So when she didn't want to kill him, then Arjuna didn't want to either. So Krishna was testing Arjuna, no, you have to kill him. He's a criminal. That's a, you know, for the Vedic standards, I don't know if a class I gave, or one of them I heard, you know, the 5 reasons you can kill someone, you know, if they set fire, if they sneak attack, you know, he did everything practically, all of them, not just one, you know, he did it, snuck in the night like a terrorist, he set fire, he was killing everybody, killed sleeping children, although they were grown up, you know, they must have been at least senior teenagers or something, but he killed them, cut off their heads in their sleep, the most abominable thing. So he was, as an aggressor, he was definitely suitable for capital punishment. But even we've heard of people, Christian, and I heard of one Muslim man recently, someone had killed his brother, and he was begging the court to, you know, not execute this man or something. I heard of one Christian guy, there's 2 boys, bad teenage boys, they killed his son, and he begged the judge to give them to me under my care, and I'll make them Christians, and he did. These boys were grateful that he didn't have them killed, and they became very good Christians and became like his sons. So, you know, these things can be done if we have genuine compassion, and we cannot be vengeful and angry, and do things in a very sober way and consult, you know, carefully. All right, Srivas, any comment?
Okay, Shivas Prabhu, please.
Since I can see your face, I can just see Srivas.
Shivas Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. This is my humble obeisances. Glory to Sri Prabhupada.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
So, Guru Maharaj, I have a question. So you mentioned, you were in answering Sadi Prabhu's question, you mentioned about the Christian who asked the court to give him those people who committed the crime against his people, that he would make them Christian and he forgave them. What about, okay, if he has forgiven them, what about the law of karma? Will he be safe from that? Because according to Prabhupada in the previous verse, it was mentioned that actually it's beneficial to give capital punishment for somebody who has killed. So my question is, okay, if the person has forgiven them, what about the law of karma on that person? How will it happen? Just because he has forgiven, will he be exempted? You are muted, Guru Maharaj. Please unmute yourself.
Sometimes it just mutes itself, or you did it. So, well, we just probably heard about Jagai and Madai recently for Nityananda's appearance day, or this, appearance day.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
They were murderers. They weren't just drunkards. They were murderers. They burned down houses. They raped girls. They were really bad. But because they surrendered to Lord Chaitanya and became devotees, then it was all covered. So that can happen. If someone is really repentant, and it happens sometimes. Big murderers, people are in prison, they become really good devotees, and become really big Christians, and they completely change and get out and become preachers. So then they don't have to be killed in order to purify the bad karma of their murdering life. But if someone is not repentant and, dangerous, that he's going to murder more and more, then if they're killed, they get relieved of that karma so their next life can be better. If they can become devotees, like Lord Chaitanya didn't kill people, even Jagai and Madai, they were so bad, Is that all right?
Guru Maharaj, thank you very much, Guru Maharaj.
Devotees, we have Vaishnava Aparad. But if someone's really repentant and they genuinely change and don't want to make the same offense anymore, then they can start clean. Like a man should think his wife as a devotee, not my wife. Should never say my wife, because that means I'm the controller, this is my property, and I don't have to I can do whatever I want. She has to do whatever I want. So, and the wife shouldn't say my husband either, because it indicates proprietorship. And that's not supposed to be our mentality. It's supposed to say my Prabhu and my Devi, and that would change the whole mood of all our marriages. Whereas in Africa, they say my Mataji, which means my mother. This is my mother. Maybe they don't know that Mataji means mother, but it doesn't mean woman, it means mother. Respected mother, Mataji. It's a very elevated term in Indian culture. I was just listening to one Mataji, young girl, the daughter of one of my god sister, god brother, and she grew up in India, and she was talking about the women's lib, and she's a very happy girl. She was the one that, when these, COVID kirtans first started, hers went viral and got 11 million views like in 2 or 3 weeks or something. She's become an internet superstar, people writing to her all the time. She's got about 5 kids, 4 or 5 kids. But she was saying that she grew up in India. She never heard in an Indian house or from Indian people, women are less intelligent, women are stupid, women are this, women are... The women were always very, very respected. But we see our men in India, our Indian men, saying, no, Vedic culture, women are got to stay and they can't leave the house. And, they have to just be mothers and they can't take, they can't do anything except stay home and wash dishes. It's not at all the Vedic standard. It's not the standard in Indian houses. Of course, there are men who mistreat their wives because it's Kali Yuga, but it's not the culture. It's not the basic culture amongst anyone that's educated and proper people. It was a very interesting conversation. She went on for a long time. I know her family very well, so I won't tell you all the history of that. But
Maharaj, I have another question.
chaotic in their family, and I think there's 7 kids, and she and 1 or 2 sisters and 1 brother, or 2 brothers and 1 sister, they all moved to Los Angeles when she was like less than 18 years old to get away from the dysfunctional family. And they made it. She worked her way through college and everything.
Yes, Maharaj, I have another question, Maharaj.
Okay.
In the course of your explanation now, you mentioned that women should not call the husband my husband, and the husband should not call the wife my wife, and this, that. From my own experience here in this part of the world, if there is no sense of proprietorship, then there is no proper care for that particular thing you are taking care of. I will give an example, like here in this part of the world, if it is government property, it's for government, then I don't need to care about it. Whatever it is, I don't care. I can use it anyhow. It can look anyhow. But if I have some sense of proprietorship, this is for me, although it's for the government, but if I don't take care of it, it's for me, then it will not look nice. So I'm thinking also, like, for example, also we have in the temple, okay, this temple belongs to ISKCON. So I don't need to care so much how the place look, how the people who comes here, how are they taken care of, because it's for ISKCON. So if there's no sense of proprietorship to some extent, from my own experience, people don't take proper care of things under their care. I don't know, maybe there's any things you can say in this regard, Lumara.
Well, it might go both ways. We've had temple presidents say, this is my temple, everyone get out. This is my temple, I don't like your face, you get out. I don't like the way you looked at me, you get out. It's my temple. So it's not your temple, it's Krishna's temple. It's not, the wife is your responsibility given to you by Krishna. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in the one poem there where he's talking about humility, I can't remember which Saranagati, probably it's in so many sections. And he says, I will never use the word my again. He said, Krishna, but I will take care of this house and this wife and these children as my duty to you. You have given me, this is my duty to take care of them. It's my job, it's my duty. It's not my property, that I can take care of it, and because I'm taking care of you, I can also kick you. That's very common. I don't know in Africa, but in other countries where, the man is making all the money, he's paying for everything. So he tells the woman, I have a right to treat you however I want. I'm maintaining you. Now that's really bad people get like that, but it can happen. But if we think this is a servant of Krishna that Krishna has given to me for taking care of this, if the temple, also the deity, we can say Krishna is mine. Then we want to take care of Krishna. That means we have to take care of all his devotees and all his property and all his buildings and all his cars and everything. But because we're very irresponsible, if like they had to do in America, if the same person, different people were driving the same car, the car would never have any gas in it. Everybody would put just enough for their purposes. Nobody would take care of it. They'd let the next person take care of it. And they had to assign, this is your car. And if you don't take care of it, then you don't have a car, you know. And they had to put the insurance only in the name of one person because they were having so many cars get smashed and everything. So it's a problem because we're not really responsible. So it's just that this idea, this is mine, that proprietorship for many people doesn't mean I have to take care of it, especially in the case of wife or children. They should, but so it's mine, but not mine, you know, that's the thing. My name is on the title, but I know it belongs to Krishna. And Radhanath Swami told one devotee when he got married, he said, however you treat her, that's how you treat me. It was his disciple. The boy was his disciple. The Mataji was now she's initiated, but you know, he told him, however you treat this girl, this is how you treat your guru. So they have a very happy marriage, by the way, but you know, they're both very advanced devotees, born in the movement and everything. But that's the proper attitude. Krishna is mine, but everything else belongs to him. So some things he's given me specifically to take care of. And the nicer I take care of them, the more I can please Krishna. If I don't take care, then I don't please Krishna.
We have two hands up. We have Zahade Prabhu and Kusha Prabhu. Please, Zahade Prabhu, please, you can unmute yourself. Yeah. Then Kusha Prabhu later.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. What you just said, the answer you gave to Kavichandra Prabhu is exactly the same answer or say statement Bhakti Charu Maharaj told us a couple years ago. And somehow I had not been following that. I always say my wife, but he also told us not to say my wife. So thank you for the reminder. But my question is, this Leela of Ashwatthama killing the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi was after the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So at this time, Arjuna had become a disciple of Krishna. And I think it's the third offense to the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, where it says one should not disobey the instructions of the spiritual master. So Krishna was telling Arjuna what to do. Of course, we understand in actuality he was testing him. So if Arjuna had taken the instructions Lord Krishna was giving him and acted upon it, not knowing that he was being tested, what would have been his situation? What would have been his state? In other words, how would a disciple know what my spiritual master is telling me is an instruction, is an order for me to carry out, or my spiritual master is just testing me and I have to use my mind to see whether what my spiritual master is telling me is true, that I have to embark on it or not? How do we draw the line between my spiritual master is testing me and my spiritual master is instructing me? Especially like in the case of Narada Muni and Dhruva Maharaj also. Narada was testing Dhruva, but Dhruva insisted, no, I'm good. So in one sense, you may say he disobeyed. So that is my dilemma. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Well, it's a very good question. But it seems like you're always asking for like some hard and fast rule. You know, there's no such thing. That's why a judge is called Vicharu. So, you know, we have to You can ask, but I have to reread it, but Krishna wasn't exactly ordering Arjuna, this is my order, you have to do this. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, he said, now that I've told you, you do whatever you want. You make up your mind, So he wanted Arjuna to kill him and not kill him, but also he had to satisfy Draupadi. So he did come up with a way to do that. Because in Vedic, there's so many different ways of killing someone. If you another story from the Mahabharata, during the battle, Yudhishthira was seriously wounded by Karna. And he was taken to the back off the battle and being treated, by the doctors. And Arjuna heard about it, so he went to check up on Yudhishthira, out of compassion and love for his brother. And when Yudhishthira saw him, he said, Arjuna, what are you doing here? You coward. You left the battlefield, and who do you think, this is terrible. And you're not qualified to carry the Gandiva bow. And Arjuna had a vow that if anybody ever told him that he's not qualified to have the Gandiva bow, he would kill that person. So he was bewildered what to do. So Krishna said, well, if you insult Yudhishthira, that's the same as killing him. So Arjuna just let off a big stream of insults. So be careful about insulting anyone. And then Arjuna felt so bad that he insulted Yudhishthira, who was faultless. He thought, now I have to kill myself, And then Krishna said, no, if you just praise yourself, that's the same as suicide. So Arjuna started bragging about all his fighting abilities, and then everybody bowed down, everybody was happy, and Arjuna went back to the battle. Okay? So Krishna always has a way to...
We have Kusha Prabhu wants to ask a question. Kusha Prabhu, I hope your background will allow you to ask your question.
Krishna Gurudev, I will obeisance. My question is on the killing of the sons of Draupadi. The Mahabharata or Bhagavatam said a Grihastha must have children, must have sons. So after the killing of the 5 sons of Draupadi, we never hear of them having other children. Or is there anywhere they have other children?
Yeah, they all had other children by other wives. Arjuna had 2 or 3. He had this one, Bubhugravan, he had one by the Naga princess. Bhima, they all had at least one other wife, and they had sons by those wives.
Thank you.
Are you actually in bus, or is that a virtual background?
No, it's in bus. It's moving. Yeah, Guru, so you mentioned a very nice point now.
Nose uncovered.
What I said?
The mask that doesn't cover your nose is you.
Yes, because I want to ask the question, so I didn't put it on.
Many will only the chin.
Guru, you mentioned a point now. You said by bragging, one is actually killing himself. When you mentioned about what Krishna told Arjuna, so by bragging, by being proud of oneself, is actually killing oneself.
Nobody likes a person bragging. Like a braggart. Anyway, that covered it. So then they both were happy, and he went back and fought very wonderfully. And Yudhishthira recovered after not very long because they had such powerful doctors with mystical mantras and everything. So the Bhagavatam is, In this first canto, you know, we hear, you know, Krishna's, the 10th canto is all Krishna, but the first canto is so much Krishna also. But Krishna with the Pandavas, you know, different, but he had intimate relations with the Pandavas, so intimate relations, and so close with all of them in different types of relationship that, and then with Draupadi and with Kunti, you know, he was a nephew. Krishna is very prominent in the first canto. So we learn a lot about Krishna right away. So thank you for keeping these classes going. It's a very wonderful example. And how you're recruiting so many different speakers. You know, Shivas, when you find all these people, it's
I think it's Giridhari Puja who is doing most of the invitation.
yeah. She tells you about different people that she hears online. Yeah, she's very good devotee.
Yes, good Maharaj.
I guess, you know, have to pray that some of these youth will come back, you know, don't feel like they have to spend the rest of their life in India. Right now, maybe they have to, for whatever reason.
Well, Guru Maharaj, most important thing about coming back is that they should give them a playing ground. That is opportunity to be able to exhibit whatever they.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You have to attract them. They have to be, especially women, they have to be respected. Like Aretha Franklin said, RESPECT, find out what it means to be. You know. Yeah, it's important. That song went viral without the internet in a couple of days. Because the Black people, the girls, everybody in the world was feeling like nobody respects me. I don't get no respect.
Prabhu Shivas want to say something.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to appreciate the class. Thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. Thank you for your wonderful answers. These are very practical, down-to-earth answers that we need every day. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you for giving me a chance.
Thank Prabhu, your answer is up.
Because
Yes,
my mind is so nonsense that if I don't get somebody wanting me to speak, then I don't, you know, I have no idea where I might drift off to. So I'm praying to Krishna, please, you know, keep me busy, especially if we get a chance to glorify. Right?
Yes,
So,
good Maharaj.
I have to take a break because I have another class in
Okay, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj. Please, we want devotees to please unmute themselves and let us appreciate Guru Maharaj by chanting one powerful Hare Krishna Maha Mantra.
Hare
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Swami Maharaj ke
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Arogampere 3 minutes.
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Krishna